A kiss a day keeps the doctor away. Good day, everyone. Today's discussion is about love and its effects on the immune system. Before anything else, allow us to introduce ourselves first. I am Yance Tapulgo,
I am Mark.
And I am Sab.
and we are third-year students from the BS Psychology Department of Xavier University. First, we will give you an overview of how today's discussion will go about. First on the list is the introduction on love, to be followed by the research questions, methodology, data, results, and observations, and next we have findings and analysis, and finally, our conclusions. Let's start you off with the question, what is love? It is indeed one of the most important aspects of human nature, and we all have our own definitions and lenses on how we look at love. But today, we will be focusing on the physiological lens. Through this, we are able to understand certain factors at play during the experience of love, like how certain important body chemicals and neurological structures contribute to experiences of stress, rewards and pleasure, sexual experiences, attraction, and attachment. All of these and more will be further discussed later on. So, the main goal of this research is to determine the role of love in immune health via the physiological lens. Hence, we will be looking at the following research questions. First, what are the physiological mechanisms of love? What is the role of love in maintaining homeostasis? And lastly, how does love affect the immune system? Before we proceed in discussing the results and findings of this study, let us first tell you how we were able to gather the information or data needed to reach our goal. In conducting this research, we used a survey method via Google Forms. We created a questionnaire that requires basic information from the participants, such as age, name, and sex. However, the name is optional. The questionnaire also required the romantic status and includes an ISQ 2019 test questionnaire. 27 of the participants at ages 18 to 25 were eligible through random sampling out of the 59 who participated. We then divided them into two groups based on their romantic status. 13 are on the in love group and the other 14 are on the not in love group. All the data gathered were jotted down on Microsoft Excel to compute for the total mean of the scores per group and per category of the ISQ questionnaire. Mark will be discussing to you further analysis and interpretation of data.
The first table we have here is the demographic profile of the participants. So we could see that the majority of them are female, while the minority is male, respectively 70.37%, while the male population represents 29.63%. In the respective age groups, we could see that 18-year-olds comprise the majority of the participants, while the latter ages of 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 comprise the other sum of the sample. So as we can see here in the second table, among the 27 respondents, more than half of them are not currently involved in a romantic relationship, comprising 51.85% of the total sample, while those who are in love now steers just a little bit away from the half of the sample. The next data reveals that those who are currently in love have different descriptions of their relationships, with the majority enjoying an official relationship, while the smaller percentages go to those who are still in a complicated status or they're not yet official. In the next data, we can see how long the relationship has been going on. The minority of the in-love participants have only been enjoying their respective relationships in less than a month, while the majority have been in their relationships for over 6 months now. Alright, so in this slide, we can see the mean scores from the responses. Going back to the guidelines of the immune status questionnaire, the outcome of the scores should range from 0 to 28, wherein a higher score would mean a higher immune vulnerability. It is clear how the mean scores of each group differ. The in-love group has a lower ISQ mean score, which may describe their immune state as less vulnerable to the risk factors such as coughs, colds, fever, and the other items described in the questionnaire. On the other hand, the not in love group has a mean ISQ score of 10, which is higher than the mean of the other group. This would seem that those who are not in love have been experiencing these risk factors more often than those who are in love, implying that their immunity is slightly more vulnerable than the other group. More analysis of these results will come in the next slides.
In this part, we will now be talking about the findings and analysis of this study. As reported by the mean ISQ scores in the previous slide, they show that those who are in love have a lower score, which signifies a better immune system as compared to those who are not in love. However, this does not necessarily mean that those who are not in love have poorer health. These results are consistent with the findings of previous research. In the following slides, we have outlined the possible explanations as to how and why the body reacts in certain ways as we fall in love. We have narrowed down the physiological mechanisms of love that plays a role in immune system as presented in this slide. Stress physiology and neurotransmitter activating reward pathways, which will be explained later on, are some of the most important mechanisms of love that boost the immune system. Romantic partners also have increased awareness regarding health cues that pay attention to one's health status, including the partners. They keep each other grounded and balanced as manifested in a shared homeostasis.
Alright, so in this slide, we will be focusing more on the neurobiological implications of love. Amazingly, there is evidence that the effects of having experienced love was present in the increasing concentration of a very important player in our immune system, the SIGA, or the salivary immunoglobulin A. What does it do? Its function is to neutralize toxins and prevent harmful pathogens in entering our bodies. But how does it do this though? It acts as a mucous barrier which prevents the entrance of harmful pathogens into the epithelial cell wall lining. The effect of the increased concentration of this immunoglobulin parallels the low mean ISQ score of the in-love group, wherein they less experience having cough, cold, fever, muscle pains, and the risk factors described in the questionnaire. We could see that there is an increased immunity against harmful pathogens when remembering the feeling of love. Moving on, people involved in early, newly formed relationships may experience more stress due to many factors such as having to adjust to your partner's likings and standards. Going back, stress is actually increased during newly formed love because of the increased intrusiveness or obsessive preoccupation of one's partners. However, a little bit of stress is not always bad. Stress in love facilitates the improvement of bodily immune responses as it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which controls our fight or flight response, to release cortisol and prepare the body for possible diseases or injuries. Neurotransmitter activating reward pathways, often involving dopamine, oxytocin, or vasopressin, also serve as a natural coping mechanism of the body against diseases. These pathways are activated whenever we experience pleasurable moments, such as those with our significant other. Reward pathways also relieve stress and its physical effects, such as muscle pain and headaches, in which the in-love groups were found to less likely experience as compared to those who are not in love.
Another implication of love to immune health is alterations of immune-related gene expression. In a 2-year longitudinal study, there was an observed upregulation of type 1 interferon responses, which are generally responsible for antiviral responses. These polypeptides inhibit viral replication within infected cells. They protect uninfected cells from infection, and they also stimulate antiviral immunity. A reciprocal downregulation of alpha-defensin-related transcripts associated with neutrophil granulocytes were also observed. Moreover, the selective upregulation of innate immune responses to viral infections with the implication of dendritic cell modulation were also observed. Interestingly, changes in dendritic cell modulation are considered as physiological anticipatory mechanisms which prepare the body for reproduction or pregnancy among women. Finally, there was an observation of how love could physiologically affect the risk of acquisition of diseases. In another study, it was found that the perception of having received love decreased the chances of getting diseases usually diagnosed in midlife, such as coronary artery disease, duodenal cancer, hypertension, and etc. Furthermore, the perception of received love from one's partner was also associated with the reduced morbidity rate of diseases, such as angina pectoris, or what we commonly know as chest pain, which is a symptom of many serious cardiovascular diseases and duodenal cancer. It is important to note that in this study, we chose to investigate the implications of new romantic love, which spans from less than a month to 6 months. Studies have shown that the physiological implications of love in health differs across the stages and duration of the relationship. New love boosts an individual's immune system brought upon by the physiologic actions of love in the body. This study reveals that the romantically in love and not in love individuals differ in the frequency and amount of health complaints they have, although they are both healthy individuals with a normal immune status and no chronic diseases. Individuals who fell in love within the last 6 months, regardless of their relationship status, appear to less likely experience physical health complaints such as diarrhea, headache, and muscle or joint pains as compared to those who are not in love. These results are reflected by their ISQ mean scores. These results can also be explained by the observed transcriptomic alterations, which boosts expression and activation of antiviral responses and innate immune responses, stress physiology, and reward pathways associated with love, and the reduced acquisition and morbidities of diseases.
These shifts in genomic regulation occurred above and beyond complaints of increased self-reported illness, which are associated with the body adjusting to the increased expression of type 1 response genes, monocytes, and dendritic cells. This may take into account why fever, skin problems, and a common cold are equally experienced by both the in-love and the not-in-love groups.
So this study is limited by the insufficient number of population studied and that gender differences were also not measured. Only physical manifestations of the immune system, which relied on self-assessment, were employed, which cannot provide a definite gauge on the vulnerability of our immune system. Moreover, a lot of factors such as innate immunity and sex could have also influenced the results of the immune status. Researches regarding the physical and somatic implication of love, gender differences, including those of heterosexual and homosexual relationships, and the impact of long-term, stable, and secure relationships to immune health are some areas that need to be explored and investigated in future researches. Thanks for watching!